Growing up in a family of restaurators, I quickly learned that food was more than just nourishment. It was an art form, a legacy, and a powerful way to bring people together. My grandmother's small noodle shop in Chinatown had sustained our family for 3 generations. Watching her expertly craft dishes in the tiny kitchen shaped my understanding of the world. Remember May, she'd say, her hands skillfully folding dumplings. Good food comes from the heart, not just the ingredients. I internalized those words, spending countless hours in the kitchen absorbing not only recipes, but the business wisdom that had helped our family navigate tough times. What no one knew was that I was also pursuing an online MBA, studying late into the night after the restaurant had closed. During the day, I mastered the delicate balance of flavors and the importance of fresh ingredients. At night, I delved into market analysis, business strategy, and corporate finance. My ambition extended beyond running a restaurant. I aimed to revolutionize the food industry. Then I met James. He walked into our restaurant on a rainy Tuesday evening, seeking refuge from the storm. Tall, impeccably dressed, and distinctly out of place, he immediately caught my attention. "What would you recommend?" he asked, water dripping from his expensive coat. "Our hand-pulled noodles with braised beef," I replied without hesitation. "It's perfect for a night like this." He smiled, a smile that made my heart skip a beat. "I trust your judgment." 20 minutes later, I watched as he took his first bite. His eyes widened in surprise, then closed in delight. When they opened again, they locked onto mine. "This is incredible," he said. "I've never tasted anything like it." That moment marked the beginning of our story. James became a regular, visiting 3 times a week, and always trying something new. Our conversations began with food, but quickly expanded to everything else. He worked in finance at a major investment firm while I shared stories about the restaurant, carefully omitting my MBA and larger ambitions. 6 months later, he proposed, simple and intimate, just us in the restaurant after closing, over a bowl of the noodles he first tasted. Meeting his family was a different story. The Chens were old money, with a business empire encompassing restaurants, hotels, and real estate. James's father, Richard Chen, was CEO of Chen Global Hospitality, one of Asia's largest luxury hotel and restaurant groups. His mother, Victoria, embodied old-world elegance, while his sister, Amanda, was the company's director of operations. From the start, it was clear I didn't fit their ideal image of a daughter-in-law, a small restaurant. Victoria's perfectly manicured eyebrows arched during our first meeting. "How quaint," she remarked. Amanda's disdain was more overt. "James, you can't be serious." "We're Chens. We own restaurant chains, not street food stalls." James squeezed my hand under the table, but remained silent, a red flag I chose to overlook. The engagement dinner was a subtle exercise in humiliation, held at the Chen flagship restaurant, the Imperial Palace. It was clear they viewed me as an outsider. "May dear," Victoria called across the table. "It's fascinating that you work in food service. Do you cook everything yourself, or do you have actual chefs?" Before I could respond, Amanda added, "Mother, be kind." I'm sure she does her best with what she has. Not everyone can afford proper culinary training. Drawing on years of customer service experience, I maintained my composure. "I train under my grandmother." "Oh, how sweet," Victoria interrupted. "Family recipes. James, remember our cooking class in Paris with the Michelin-starred chef?" James chuckled uncomfortably. "Mother, please." But the most painful part wasn't their condescension, it was James's silence. He never once defended me or our relationship. What they didn't know was that while managing my tiny restaurant, I had completed my MBA with honors and developed an ad-driven food service platform poised to revolutionize the industry. My company, Food Tech Solutions, was already valued at over $3 billion. Operating in stealth mode, I had kept this private, wanting to be judged for who I was, not what I owned. But as wedding preparations began, it became clear that the Chens would never accept me. The breaking point came during a family dinner at Victoria's mansion. I brought some of my signature dishes to share my heritage. Victoria wrinkled her nose at the containers. "Oh, he brought takeout." "Actually, I made these myself," I said proudly. "They're my grandmother's recipes." Amanda prodded the food with her fork. How authentic. But for the wedding, we should stick to proper catering. We have a reputation to maintain. James beside me focused intently on his phone. The wedding menu is settled, Victoria announced. Chef Pierre from Paris will cater. We can't have street food at a Chen wedding. My food isn't. I began. But Victoria raised a hand. "May dear, understand that the Chens are more than a family. We're a brand. Your little restaurant is charming, but it's not up to our standards. After the wedding, we could help you find a more suitable occupation." My phone buzzed. It was an alert. Chen Global Hospitality stock had plummeted 30% in after-hours trading due to leaked quarterly losses and potential fraud in the restaurant division. Victoria turned ashen. Amanda frantically typed, and Richard barked orders into his phone. James turned to me, pale. "I need to go to the office. Family emergency." I stood calmly. "Actually, I think I can help." Everyone froze. "Help?" Amanda sneered, though her voice wavered. "Unless you can conjure $500 million, your noodle expertise isn't relevant." I pulled my laptop from my bag. "Actually, I'd like to show you something." Victoria waved a dismissive hand. "May dear, this is hardly the time for food tech solutions." I interjected calmly, turning my laptop around to face them. "Have you heard of it?" The color drained from Amanda's face. Of course she had. Every major player in the hospitality industry knew about the enigma tech company revolutionizing restaurant operations worldwide. Richard lowered his phone, eyes narrowing. "What about it?" "I founded it 3 years ago," I said simply. "It's currently valued at $3.2 billion. And yes, Amanda, I can produce that $500 million you need, and more." A heavy silence fell over the room. James gaped at me. "But you run a small restaurant." "I run several things, James," I replied. "The restaurant is my passion. Food Tech Solutions is where my business acumen thrives." I turned to Victoria. "Those street food recipes you mocked are the foundation of an ad-driven menu optimization system, now used by 5-star restaurants worldwide." Richard leaned forward, his earlier disdain replaced by keen interest. "You're saying you're the CEO of Food Tech Solutions, the company every hospitality group is chasing." I confirmed, pulling up our financials. "We're in stealth mode, but we plan to go public next quarter. Our platform revolutionizes everything from inventory management to customer preference prediction, something your company desperately needs right now." I gestured to Amanda's laptop, showing their dismal financial report. Victoria's hand trembled as she set down her wine glass. "But why didn't you tell us?" she asked. Voice faltering, "Would it have made a difference?" I asked softly. "Would it have made me more worthy of respect, more suitable as a daughter-in-law?" "The fact that you're even asking speaks volumes." Amanda's face reddened with anger. "You expect us to believe you, a restaurant owner, built a billion-dollar tech company in secret." I displayed a screen of patents and proprietary algorithms. "Your crisis stems from outdated systems and manual inventory management. These are exactly the issues my technology solves. Richard's business instincts flared. We should discuss this privately. Perhaps over dinner at the Imperial? No, I cut in. We'll discuss it here, where you've belittled me for months. You've made it clear I'm not good enough for your family. James finally spoke. May, why didn't you tell me? I looked at him, a profound sadness settling in. I wanted you to stand up for me, for who I am, not for what I own. But you never did. Victoria tried to recover. Darling, you must understand, we have standards. Yes, I said firmly, you've made those standards clear. Now let me set mine. Chin Global Hospitality is on the brink of collapse. I can help, but there will be conditions. Amanda's eyes darkened. Conditions? This is blackmail. No, Amanda, I replied. This is business. I stood, smoothing my dress. You've treated me like I'm beneath you. Now you need my help. Can your pride handle that? Richard's tone turned conciliatory. Name your conditions. First, a complete reorganization of your management. Your leadership is incompetent. I glanced at Amanda, who sputtered indignantly. Second, full implementation of food tech solution systems across all properties. Your outdated methods are bleeding money. Third, I continued, a public acknowledgement of our partnership and the fact that I, owner of that little restaurant, saved Chen Global Hospitality. Victoria gasped. You can't expect us to. I can, I said. Your stock is in free fall. By morning, you'll have lost half your market value. Your investors are already calling for heads to roll. James reached for my hand. May, please. Let's talk. I pulled away. We need to discuss our relationship, James. The room grew silent again. You've let your family insult me, my heritage, and my work for months. You've left with them, sat quietly, and never stood up for me. Even tonight, your first instinct was to flee to the office instead of defending me. Tears welled in my eyes, but my voice stayed steady. I don't need a partner who only values me for my wealth. I need someone who would defend me when I had nothing. Victoria rose, her composure slipping. Now see here. No, I cut her off. You see here. I hope to be accepted for who I am. Instead, you show me who you are. Accept my terms and save your company, or let your pride destroy it. I gathered my things, including the untouched containers of my street food. You have until tomorrow morning to decide. My team will be in touch. As I walked to the door, Amanda called out, You can't just walk away. This is our legacy. I turned one last time. Yes, and you've run it into the ground. If you had focused on innovation instead of judgment, you wouldn't be here. The last thing I saw was James's stricken face, Victoria's trembling hands, and Richard's calculating stare. Their empire was crumbling, and their only hope lay in the woman they had deemed unworthy. Sometimes power wears a business suit and carries recipes in take-out containers. The next morning, in my sleek penthouse office, overlooking the city, I reviewed our latest ad data. My phone buzzed incessantly, messages from James, Richard's lawyers, and finally, Victoria herself. My assistant, Sarah, entered with a fresh cup of green tea. The Chen family is in the lobby. All of them. I checked my watch, 7:30 a.m., right on schedule. Give them 10 minutes. Then send them up. Those 10 minutes mattered. A negotiation lesson from my grandmother, let them wait, she'd say. Anxiety seasons any dish. When they finally entered my office, their transformation was stark. Victoria's aristocratic poise had crumbled. Amanda's designer outfit seemed hastily thrown together. Richard's face wore the strain of a sleepless night. James lingered at the back, looking utterly lost. "The paperwork is ready," I said without preamble, gesturing toward the documents on the conference table. "Shall we begin?" Richard stepped forward. "Before we start, I want to—" "Save it," I interrupted. "This is a business meeting, nothing more. Your company is hemorrhaging value by the minute. Let's focus on that for the next 2 hours." We methodically went through the terms. Food Tech Solutions would acquire a 40% stake in Chen Global Hospitality in exchange for emergency funding and the full implementation of our systems. Amanda would step down as Director of Operations to be replaced by someone from my team. "This is highway robbery," Amanda sputtered. But Richard silenced her with a glare. "It's more than fair," I replied calmly. "You're getting cutting-edge technology, immediate financial stability, and a partnership that will elevate your market value. In return, I gain partial ownership of a company in desperate need of modernization." Victoria, who had remained unusually quiet, finally spoke. "And what about James?" I met her gaze steadily. "James is not part of this discussion. Business and personal matters should remain separate, something your family never seemed to grasp." James stepped forward. "May, please. Can we talk privately?" I considered for a moment before nodding. 5 minutes. "The rest of you can review the documents with my legal team in my private office." James paced nervously. "Why didn't you tell me about any of this?" "Would it have changed anything?" I asked. "Would you have stood up to your family sooner? Defended my little restaurant against their constant criticism?" I was trying to keep the peace. "No, James, you were choosing the path of least resistance. Each time your family insulted me, my heritage, my work, you chose silence. That silence said everything." He ran his hands through his hair, frustrated. "I love you, May. Isn't that enough?" "Love without respect isn't love, James. It's convenience." I stood up. "Your family's company is in crisis because they refuse to adapt, to see value in different perspectives. You're not so different." "Give me another chance," he pleaded. "Now that I understand." "That's the problem," I cut in. "You only want another chance because now you know I'm wealthy and successful. But I'm the same person I was yesterday, running my little restaurant with pride. If you couldn't love and respect that person, you don't deserve to know this one." Back in the conference room, the documents were ready for signing. Richard's hand trembled slightly as he signed away 40% of his family's legacy. Victoria watched with tears in her eyes while Amanda sat stiffly, barely containing her fury. As the papers were notarized, I made one final announcement. "One more thing. My grandmother's restaurant, it's not for sale at any price. It will continue operating exactly as it has for 3 generations." "But surely, with your resources," Victoria began. "That restaurant is my heritage, my heart. It's everything you looked down on, everything you mocked. And it will remain exactly as it is. A reminder that success doesn't always wear a designer label or come with a luxury brand name." Over the next 6 months, Chen Global Hospitality underwent a complete transformation. Our AI systems revolutionized their operations, cutting costs while improving service quality. Their stock not only recovered, but soared to new heights. The press loved the story. A traditional family business saved by innovative technology from an unexpected source. James sent flowers, letters, even tried to visit the restaurant. I returned the flowers, left the letters unopened, and had security politely escort him out. Some bridges, once burned, should stay that way. 1 year later, I sat in my grandmother's kitchen, showing her the latest financial reports. Chen Global Hospitality had doubled in value, and Food Tech Solutions was now worth over $5 billion. Ah, but how's the broth? She asked, tasting the day's soup. I smiled, understanding her point. Success wasn't about the numbers. It was about staying true to yourself, your values, your heritage. The restaurant was packed as usual, with a line stretching around the block. Victoria had come by once, months ago, presumably to make amends. She waited in line like everyone else, ate quietly in a corner, and left a generous tip. She never returned, but the gesture was noted. Amanda had moved to Europe, unable to face the humiliation of working under my management team. Richard adapted surprisingly well, finally acknowledging that tradition needed to walk hand in hand with innovation. As for James, the last I heard, he was dating a socialite his mother approved of. Some people never learn. As for me, I split my time between running a global tech company and making noodles in my grandmother's kitchen. Both brought me joy in different ways. Both were equally important parts of who I am. The media often asked about the contrasts. A billionaire tech CEO who still works in a small restaurant kitchen. They didn't understand that the restaurant wasn't just a business. It was a reminder of where I came from, who I am, and what truly matters. One evening, as I was closing up the restaurant, a young girl peeked into the kitchen. "Are you really the lady who owns all those big hotels now?" I smiled, handing her a freshly made dumpling. "No, sweetheart. I'm just the lady who makes really good noodles. Everything else is just business." The Chen family thought they were teaching me a lesson about status and worth. Instead, they learned a costly lesson about judgment and pride. Sometimes the most valuable things in life come in the simplest packages. And the most powerful people are those who don't need to prove their power. As my grandmother always said, good food comes from the heart, not just the ingredients. The same is true of success. It comes from integrity, not just assets. I still have the takeout containers from that last dinner at the Chen Mansion. They sit in my office as a reminder. Never let anyone shame you for who you are, and never compromise your values for those who can't see your worth. Sometimes the best revenge isn't serving a cold dish. It's serving a perfectly prepared one, seasoned with success, garnished with grace, and served with a side of karmic justice.